Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So like pretty much all of you, I have been in my studio for the last year plus without being able to go anywhere else and been pretty much attached to all the gear that I have here and the way that I have it set up and the workflow that I have set up here. Now, as many of us are getting ready to start to be a little bit more mobile as things open up a bit more around the world, we want to start to think about what we're going to take with us when we go somewhere, when we're going to be away from our studio for a few days or a couple weeks. So what we're going to talk about today is what a lot of people call their desert island gear, or the gear that they would bring if they could just bring one thing to a desert island. Well, in a real world scenario, it's maybe not a desert island, but you may be going away from your gear for a while. So what are you going to bring? What's going to be the things that are going to be the most mobile, the most practical, the most useful for the time that you have, depending on where you're going? Now, this is going to depend on a couple things. First of all, where you're going. Second of all, what kind of music you make in particular and what your workflow is. And third of all, what you want to do with the gear while you're gone. Now, are you going to be using it to play? Are you going to be using it to just jam around and pass the time away while you sit on the beach and, sip margaritas? Or are you going to be using it to sketch out ideas that when you get back to your studio, you're going to be able to integrate back into your production workflow and hopefully finish out into some real tracks? So the answers to those questions are going to be different for everybody. What I'm going to do today is to try and answer a little bit about what I'm going to bring and why and how that fits into the workflow that I do. Basically, I'm going to be going away from my studio for a couple weeks, and my purpose for bringing gear along is twofold. One, pass the time, enjoy, relax in some of the time that I'm away visiting family. But the second part about it is I also want to be working on things, sketching out ideas as inspiration strikes, being able to have those ideas that I can then turn into finished tracks when I get back. Because of that, I'm going to bring with me a couple different key pieces of gear. So first and foremost, something that I always bring with me no matter where I'm going and no matter what the purpose is for going is my Zoom H4n Pro. I love this. It has the ability to record in 4 tracks. You've got a couple different directional microphones. You can plug in an outside microphone. You can actually plug in a couple of outside microphones. You can plug in external gear to record all sorts of things. It's really compact. It's built like a tank. It's going to be able to survive any kind of conditions that you throw at it while you're out there. And it's great to have something like this for a couple different things. One, if you do actually want to record something that you're performing and you want to you write something that you really like and you want to lay it down as an audio track, you can record directly into this and you can save that onto an SD card, and then you can have it when you get back into your studio to use as an audio clip, as an audio file. The other thing that these are great for is for field recordings, for making samples. Anywhere that you are, you can record things with these that you can then take back into your hardware equipment if you've got sample editing capabilities, or into your DAW once you get back into your studio, and you can use those clips to make samples, to make your own sounds. And it's really cool to be able to record different places and then write tracks using the sounds of the place that you were visiting. That's something that I'm going to do when I'm on this trip. I'll do a video about that, so you'll be able to see that once I get back. So Zoom H4n, not too expensive and amazing sound quality and built like a tank. I would recommend this for anybody who's traveling. The next piece of gear that I'm going to bring with me is what I'm going to bring to play around, to pass the time. For me, this is kind of the equivalent of bringing an iPad or bringing a magazine or something. It's the way I will pass time when I'm in the airport, when I'm on the plane, when I'm on the beach, when I'm by a pool, when I'm just relaxing and I just want to kind of mess around with some music. What I'm going to bring with me for that is my Novation circuit tracks. Now, I'm pretty new to the world of Novation, so I'm looking forward to this time to get to know this machine a bit better and push it a little bit more and see what I can do with it, see what kind of creative stuff can come out of it. But basically, this is going to be for playing around. Now, the reason why I say that with this is not because it's a toy, but because it's battery powered. It does have its own internal battery, so it is very portable, very mobile. This piece by itself is going to be really the only thing that I need to take with me in my bag when I'm on the plane. I'll just have some in-ear headphones, so I'll be able to use this in a really small space in the airport, on the plane, in a taxi, sitting around anywhere where I don't have access to an electrical outlet, I do have a way to sketch out some ideas and record in some sequences and come up with some, rough sketch ideas for tracks. Now, one of the reasons why this isn't the only piece of gear that I'll bring along, and I touched on this in my video comparing this to the Digitact. I'll link that video up above here or here. One of the biggest differences between this and the Digitact is how there's a bit of a barrier I've found, and I'm going to try and find some workarounds and ways to get around this while I'm on this trip. But what I found is that there's a bit of a barrier in trying to get a sketch from the inside of the circuit tracks into either a DAW or a DAW-less full-blown recording setup to be able to finish it. There's no simple way to get multiple tracks out from here at once, so you end up going through the process of doing single tracking out and recording one by one while you mute the other tracks and things like that. Whereas with the Digitact, it's much easier to do that. We'll talk about that in a minute. In order to get down some ideas, get down some melodies, some bass lines, some drum beats, create some little loops, I will be able to use this, and I can record those into the Zoom recorder, and so that way I can make my own loops and clips that I can use later on in some of the other equipment. So I look forward to getting to know this a bit better, but the idea is to use this to sketch around with when I am in a place where I can't have an outlet and where I just want to do something just real quick for fun, pull it out of the bag and mess around on it. Next is what I would truly call my desert island piece of gear, and it's because I feel that it's a very versatile and very durable piece of equipment that doesn't take up much space, and that is the Elektron Digitact. As I mentioned before, I did a video not too long ago comparing the Digitact and the circuit tracks, what I liked and didn't like about each one of them and what the strengths and weaknesses were, so I'm not going to go too deep into that right now. What I do want to talk about is why the Digitact for me is that desert island piece of kit that I would bring along with me. Now, for me, it's not just about having that one piece of equipment that makes my favorite sound or that, I enjoy playing the most or something like that. When I'm away from my studio, I want to be able to have the ability to put down ideas that I can then later on, once I get back to the rest of my equipment, flesh out into full-blown ideas. And that's something where the Elektron Digitact, the Digitone, also the Mark II versions of the Analog 4 and the Analog Rhythm are all really great because they use Overbridge. Now with Overbridge, it's easy to, via USB, connect this machine into Ableton, which is the DAW that I use, but it connects into any DAW that way. And then you can multi-track out anything that you've recorded into here onto different tracks. You can decide which of those tracks you want to record, and in one take, you can get everything out all at the same time, rather than having to go through, if you've got 8 tracks, mute 7 of them and record the other one by itself, and then go back and start over again and do each thing. If you do a 2 or 3 minute long jam that you really like, you can record the entire 2 or 3 minute long jam from this directly into Ableton and not just have to record the master out, but you can record out each individual track at the same time onto a different track in your DAW. Now, another thing that's really great about this for integrating back into regular studio equipment and into the rest of your kit is that I like to integrate this into my full live setup. So I have a few other Elektron machines, and what's great about this is that via MIDI, I can copy over, for example, if I record something into one of the sample tracks and I really like that, and I like the melody, I can copy that onto a MIDI track with all of the parameters that I set for that, and then I can push that out to another piece of equipment without having to go back through and redo it, or without having to record that single piece of audio and then load it as a sample into something else. So it's really handy to be able to use this to integrate back into the rest of the gear once you get back into your studio area. The other thing that I really love about the Digitact as far as being a desert island piece of gear, or the vacation piece of gear, is its size. I mean, it is tiny. It's about the same size as the circuit tracks, actually even smaller if you notice. It is thicker There is a bit more going on in here, and it's definitely heavier. With the box being built out of metal, it makes it definitely heavier, so it is something to think about as you're packing and as you're taking things with you. But I like the idea of it being metal and heavy and really durable. I trust that if I bring this thing and I'm chucking it into a bag and I'm hauling it around and taking it through security checks at the airport, taking it in and out of bags and things like that, that it's gonna be up to the task. It's gonna be up to getting beaten around a bit more than a lot of other pieces of gear, because it is really, really solid. So all of those things said, that's why Digitact is really my desert island piece of gear, although it's not the only thing that I'm gonna be bringing with me on this trip. As I mentioned before, I will also be bringing one other piece of gear with me, and I'm not gonna talk about that now because I am gonna do a video about it while I'm on the trip. But I had another piece of gear that it's an extra that I'm bringing along because I wanna take advantage of the free time that I'm gonna have on this trip to be able to really dig deep and get to know this piece of gear better, because I know that in the time that I've had it, I've just managed to scrape the surface. And so I look forward to digging into that and doing some videos about that so I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. Now, of course, with all of this, there are a few things that we would want to bring in addition to that. That would be a good set of headphones, some cables, whether that's, a MIDI cable or two, an audio cable or two, to be able to put gear through other gear or plug it into the recorder so that we can do those things that we want to do. Depending on the scenario, you may want to bring along a microphone. Although for my particular workflow, I don't do a lot of vocal stuff. The microphones on the Zoom are plenty for me. I don't need to take up that space or bring along a microphone. That's something that I wouldn't actually use all that much. I would say as well that when you're on vacation, or whether you're traveling, visiting family, or if you have a long trip and a lot of time on an airport, it can be a great time to work, as far as working on music and sketching out ideas and things like that. But it can also be a great time to get organized. So if you have a sampler or sample player and you want to organize your files, it's a great time to do that when you're on a plane. It sometimes isn't the most creative time in the world. The same goes if you have a workflow that involves a laptop or any kind of DAW setup. Great time to manage those files, to manage those samples, to organize those things. For me, what I like to do is try and stay away from the computer, stay away from the DAW when I'm traveling, so that I can kind of get the most inspiration from where I am and not kind of get buried into the computer. And that's why I'm going to bring these pieces of equipment with me on this trip. I would say as well, something that I would definitely recommend if you're going to be hauling around some of this gear and putting it in and out of bags is a good kind of hard, soft shell case for your equipment. Analog cases are great, not sponsored by them. Love to do something with them, but I bought this one myself because it's something that I really do believe in. These cases are great. This one in particular fits the Digitact really well. I can show you like this. Fits the Digitact really well with its power supply in there. And these are very durable, especially if they're going to be inside a backpack. It's great to have something like this to keep the knobs from getting banged around and keep it from getting banged into the other equipment that's inside your bag. And if you're going to be pulling it in and out, you don't want to catch something on something and break it. As I said, I think the Digitact's pretty durable. It's going to take a lot of a beating, but I think that having something like this just makes me feel that much more secure with it. So definitely recommend getting a case like this if you're going to be traveling, and so that way you can just chuck it into your carry-on and take it with you on your trip. So all in all, really excited to be getting out and getting a little bit more mobile. We're gonna do it the safest way possible, totally vaccinated, masked up the whole way, the whole time, staying socially distanced, but getting out there and visiting some family and friends for the first time in almost a year and a half now. So pretty excited to get out there, and I look forward to sharing some of the videos of that with you guys. I'm going to be doing some a little bit different videos now that we're going to be able to be outside the studio a bit more, a little bit more on location videos and outside, and potentially a couple of videos of some gigs and shows and things like that. So look forward to sharing all that with you, and hope you're able to get out there soon and you're able to get some traveling in soon. And I'd love to hear in the comments down below, what's your piece of gear that you're going to take with you? What's that one piece that kind of does it all for you when you're on a trip, and it's the one that you can't do without, and it's kind of the first thing that you grab for when you're packing your bag and you've got some limited space. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.